Welcome to Movie Friends. We're your hosts, Seth and Michelle. Today we're talking about Back to the Future from 1985. Directed by Robert Zemeckis. Written by Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis. Cinematography by Dean Cundy. Edited by Arthur Schmidt and Harry Karamitis. Composed by Alan Silvestri. Starring Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, Thomas F. Wilson, and Claudia Wells. Michelle, how are you?
Great Scott!
Oh my
We're
gosh.
here, Seth. Oh.
How many times are you going to say Great Scott?
Well, probably a lot, full disclosure.
Okay.
And I need to get like a sticker and a pin and just start using it more and more and more.
Okay.
Not that it's the first time I've heard it, but it kind of reignited.
I think it'd be funny if that became like your catchphrase.
My thing? Well, it's not mine, it's Doc Brown's, but...
But was it Doc Brown's?
Well, I guess it's Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis.
That's true. I'm just saying, did anyone say Great Scott before this movie?
I don't know, and to be honest with you, I don't really know the origin story, so perhaps I should look that up first and see if I really want to commit.
Yeah, because it does appear to be Scott, not S-C-O-T. Like, it's not like a Scottish person.
No, it's two T's.
Yeah, so who is this Scott?
I don't know. And you know what? Until this very moment, I never thought to look it up.
Maybe my phrase will be, Great Scott too.
Hey!
Hey, so we're talking about two of your favorite movies in like a month. You must be thrilled.
I'm a lucky girl. We have great listeners for submitting some great picks.
Yep, so this is going to round out our friend request month. It was fun. It was a lot of pressure off of me.
Yeah.
Picking movies, and
it
was just like, hey, this isn't my fault, you know?
Right. Hey, we could do this every month. Give the people a theme. Be like, it's Movie Friends. You guys are going to choose.
Right.
Wow, what a concept.
I know. Yeah, well, maybe.
Okay, whatever.
But what I kept saying to you was it was cool because all of these movies that we've done, they're great movies, but they're ones that I probably wouldn't have picked for each category. So it was just great having other people pick them, you know?
Yeah.
But before we talk about the movie, we do have some emails.
We do?
We do.
I'm genuinely surprised because I felt like we answered every email on Earth during our YouTube video that went out last week, which you guys should definitely check out.
We got 3 more.
Wow. Wow. People keep giving.
So the first one's from Ben, and he's responding to our Singing in the Rain episode.
Hey, Ben.
He said, I'm also a musicals guy. And that's true. Ben and I share a love for Moulin Rouge.
I love Moulin Rouge. That soundtrack is so good.
Yeah.
Are
Come
all the
what may.
Sam and I used to sing to each other and dance across our living room and
Pretend you're on a big elephant.
Yes, exactly. Are all the Var guys musical people?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. We grew up watching I really don't which hold on to your hats, folks, but we grew up watching Sound of Music. Mm-hmm. Not a big Sound of Music guy.
It's long.
Newsies was a big one.
I've never seen that.
It's so good.
We should do that for the podcast.
Christian Bale. I would love to do Newsies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's like a young Christian Bale singing and dancing.
Yes, please.
Yes. It's really, really cool.
Yum.
Anyway, so he says, the great movie ride is awesome. Normalize Lena's voice.
Yes.
Yes, but not us doing Lena's voice.
No.
This is one of the greatest movies about movies ever made. And I think I would agree with that. He says, P.S. If Seth is the movie part and the friends are the friends part, is Mitch the pod? Then he says, P.S.S. Is Mitch actually AI? Then he says, P.S.S.S. Is anything real? And I cannot confirm that.
Cannot compute. Man, the corn is real strong today, so...
That's fine. Hey, we're doing this... This is a weird episode because, one, we watched the movie together, which we'll talk about later, and 2, we're recording at 2 in the afternoon
Yeah.
Normally, we're recording towards the end of the night, and Michelle's like winding down and she's slowly running out of steam. But I feel like now it's like...
You're getting like prime Michelle.
Yeah. Lunch has metabolized.
Yeah, exactly. Like I always say to Liz, imagine if we recorded during the day when there was like AC going and we had caffeine in us.
Right.
What a world of difference a podcast would make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if this episode sucks now? Anyway.
Oh, no.
We got an email from Matt, who picked this movie, and we're going to hear from him later.
Yay.
But he said, "Hey, Seth and Michelle, I'm excited for Back to the Future. Attached is a short audio recording, as well as a picture, if you care to share it, of me with posters, a behind-the-scenes book, and a painting that I created. He did a poster of Back to the Future, and you saw it.
I did. Can I tell you something?
Sure.
Okay, so I don't think I knew what Matt looked like.
Okay.
And so when you sent the picture, I was like, oh my God. Like my heart eyes were going strong.
He's handsome.
This is a dream situation. First off, there's like all this Back to Future stuff. He's holding up what he created. He's so cute. And he's got a cat.
Yeah, there's a cat.
He has a cat. I was like,
yeah.
Wow, new crush alert. But
well, ladies and gentlemen, he is taken. So.
I mean, I'm taken too, but...
yeah. Sadly, Atticus, that's the name of their cat. They named him after Atticus from To Kill a Mockingbird. The cat has not been able to take a time-traveling trip in a DeLorean. Though by his look in the picture, I'll bet he wished he could hop in one to escape being forced to take a photo.
I mean, he posed beautifully, so...
Cats are not photographic, I have come to find out. You're always saying they're not cooperating.
No.
No?
They're just like, it goes back to my whole, you got to force your kids. Remember, you got to force your cat to wear the hat?
Yes.
That cat posed beautifully.
If you guys could time travel, when would you go to? Michelle, if you went back in time to when you and Seth first hung out, what type of Seth would you encounter and what would you tell him? Love the podcast, especially the funny life stories you guys share. Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
So first question, if you could time travel, when would you go to?
I mean, obviously, I've thought about this over the past couple of days since we watched the movie, and then I watched part 2, and I probably will watch part 3 this weekend. Part of me absolutely wants to go back and see what my parents were like.
That was one of my questions for you, is like, would you actually do it? Because Marty goes back and his dad's like a perv.
Well, yes, and also kind of a geek and has no confidence, right? But also I'm very curious about going future. Like super future.
Super future.
Super future. Yeah, and seeing what that looks like. But that might blow my mind. And I might see all the robots and be terrified and be like, oh, fudge.
You think there... You think there'll be like robots and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, don't you think that's where our life is going?
I can't tell you. I don't know.
Oh, that's all I hear from Anthony.
I am no predictor of the future.
Robots.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure it's coming, yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't know. I would want to go back to see some like historic stuff.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Like I would be like Mr. Peabody and Sherman.
Right.
Yeah. So I'd be like, how did Abraham Lincoln actually get shot?
That's so weird you said that, Seth, because I literally was just going to say that.
Yeah. And like I want to go to when JFK was shot.
So you just want to experience the assassinations.
Right, like Joan of Arc. Yeah.
An assassination tour.
And I wouldn't intervene. Like I wouldn't do,
Sure.
I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
There might be a time where like I'm too close to the action and they think I'm part of it,
Well then.
Oof. Yeah. So, second question, if you went back to when you and I first hung out, what type of Seth would you encounter?
I don't really remember. I just remember
a smellier
being
one.
So mad at Krista and questioning why I'm here and doing this.
Yes.
I feel like me and you didn't really interact one-on-one. It was more so just trying to check off the things we had to do for the scavenger hunt. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't remember me the first time meeting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Really?
Sure, of course.
I mean, did you get the vibe that I didn't want to be there?
I mean, I didn't want to be there either. For those of you who are just joining us, Michelle and I met at a scavenger hunt where we were split up from our friends and put together with random groups. And don't do that if you're ever running a scavenger hunt.
It's pretty funny when you actually think about how we first met.
It's pretty strange.
Yeah, it's pretty strange.
So what would you tell me? Do you have anything you would tell me?
I'd be like, yo, wait, so I'm traveling back to that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, one day we're going to have a podcast.
And I'd say, what is a podcast?
Exactly. And I'll be like, you'll know when the time is right.
Well, I wish you would say to me, invest in Apple.
Oh, yeah, but
invest in Google.
Sure, but I don't even do that, so that wouldn't have been the first
But
thing.
if you could go back and tell yourself, like, hey, work every day of your life and put all of that money into it.
Yeah, but you know what? That would be like a good thing to discuss if we were discussing part 2. I mean, it's a little less of
very true.
betting.
And we might get into a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, we got one more email.
Okay.
And I was really hoping that you wouldn't find out about this one.
I haven't checked the email. I don't check the email.
I know.
You do it
for me. But, you know, in the off chance.
Sure.
So we have an email from Secret Zach.
Oh my gosh. You mean being controlled by Newman?
We've been playing cat and mouse with Zach.
Yeah.
I mean, not really. He's just been responding, and we've been blowing it out of proportion.
Well, not really. Newman's been talking for him. So I hope Zach's providing a picture and...
No picture yet.
A voice memo.
No voice memo
Okay,
yet.
well, it's Newman then, but continue.
Okay. All right, well, this might be Newman. He says, hello, movie friends. This is Newman's Zach. Not even Newman's friend, just Newman's Zach. So
he's like a little buddy.
I just finished listening to the episode and was thrilled to hear y'all agree on the excellence of When Harry Met Sally. Love the movie, loved the discussion, and so excited for a new show to listen to. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you so much, Zach.
One of the reasons I love this movie so much, aside from the Woody Allen feel without having to watch a Woody Allen movie, which I think is pretty funny.
That is funny.
Is the excellent commentary of what felt like a lot of 20s relationships, especially as someone moving to the big city and the circle of acquaintances you often come into contact with at parties and gatherings. It's the best example I can think of real people trying to figure out what they mean to each other. In a side note, I heard on the Truman Show episode the idea of a Sasquatch miniseries.
Thank you.
May I suggest the cult classic, The Legend of Boggy Creek? Dealing with a Sasquatch-esque cryptid named the Fook Monster, this is a regional horror film that feels like old 70s exploitation films. However, it also created a Blair Witch-style phenomenon in the area. It was believed to be more documentary than fiction, and I believe you can still go visit Fook. It's spelled Fouke. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Right, Fook is like the best I'm doing.
Sure.
You can still go visit Fook, Arkansas during Boggy Creek Fest to get together with like-minded cryptid lovers. Anyway, wanted to reach out, say hello, and thanks for making my week, morning, and shower without a shout-out. With a shout-out as I was listening to the podcast. Best, Z. He signs his name Z like Zorro. The mystery deepens.
Wow. I'm speechless. Thanks, Z.
Hopefully you're not listening too long in the shower. That would be a long shower.
I mean, I wasn't going to address it, but...
You'd be pruny.
Very pruny.
Unless you're listening to us on double speed.
That boggles my mind. When
Yeah, I can't do that.
No.
Which, it's funny, because Ben was showing me one time, he listens to all of his shows on double speed. And he said, do you want to hear what you sound like? And I talk so slowly and methodically when we're recording that me on, like, double speed just sounds like a normal person talking.
Wow.
Everyone else is like, and I'm just like, well, yeah, and then I thought this. And I was like, wow, I should talk quicker. But then I thought, nah, who cares?
Right.
So before we move into Back to the Future, we had requested people send us pictures of themselves singing in the rain. We got one from Krista, and then we got one from Jamila, and we also got this little note.
Okay, so I turned the shower on. No, it's the rain. Yeah, it's raining right now. So that's what you're hearing. Okay. I'm singing in the rain, just singing in the rain. What a glorious feeling, I'm happy again. I'm laughing at clouds so dark up above. The sun's in my heart and I'm ready for love. Let the stormy clouds chase everyone from the place. Come on with your rain, I've got a smile on my face. I'll walk down the lane with a happy refrain, just singing, singing in the rain.
Wow, that was much better than our singing on that episode.
Also, I think that kind of overrides a picture.
Oh, yeah, for
That's
sure.
like a live action dedication.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that was great.
It was great. Thanks,
Jamila. And I liked that part at the beginning where she's like, "Oh, this is the rain. I mean, the shower." That was great.
Movie magic.
All right, so before we get into the episode, normally Michelle records her thoughts before seeing the movie, but since this is a movie that she's seen before, we have a message from the person who submitted this movie for Friend Request Month, Matt. So let's listen to that.
Hi, Seth and Michelle. I'm so excited you guys picked Back to the Future. That's one of my all-time favorite films, probably in my top 5. It used to be my number 1, but that's changed over the years. It's just such a fun, unique movie, just about time travel and meeting your parents, especially when they're the same age as you. It's such a unique concept for a movie, and I've often wondered, myself, like, what would it be like to meet my parents back in the day? So I didn't see this movie actually till I was in college. I caught it on TV, and I didn't get to finish it. And then when I was home on summer break, I remember watching it at home with my family. It was on TV, and I caught the whole thing, and I loved it. And I watched the second one right after that because I was on TV as well. I loved that. And then I had to rent the third one from Blockbuster, which I'd always heard that it was but and it's not as good as the first two. But I still think that one's actually a pretty good movie as well. But nothing tops the first one. I love just the 80s, the music, the nostalgic of that. I was born in 86, so I remember a little bit of the 80s and the early 90s. And it's a very comforting movie. Just makes me think of the good old days. I also love the poster art for these movies, for 1, 2, and 3. A lot of times, poster artists don't get a lot of credit, but back then in the 80s, the poster art is kind of what you remember the movie being a little bit of. So Drew Struzan is the artist who did the painting for the movie poster, and that's such an iconic image of Marty, stepping out of the DeLorean with like this weird light shining, and he's looking at his watch. Such a cool concept, and anybody who loves movies recognizes that image immediately. So I just think that's so cool. Thanks again for picking this movie. Bye.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
I like how he brings out the poster art, and
Yeah.
I agree. A lot of times when I think of a movie, the image that will come to my head is the cover art or the poster art. Yeah.
Yeah.
He brings up another good point that, like, this movie is very 80s, and we've done movies from the 80s before, but not necessarily, like, thick with 80s syrupy nostalgia.
Yeah.
And this is, like, this movie was huge when it came out.
Yeah.
Number 1 movie that year.
Yeah.
Number 1 for 8 weeks.
Yeah. What a great summer movie, right?
Yeah, it lost its position and then gained it back again, which that's anytime a movie goes down and back up, that's pretty huge. So clearly people are watching this movie multiple times in theaters. We watched this movie together, which was a fun experience.
Was that?
Yeah,
Was that
and
so
Anthony
fun,
was
Seth?
there, and we're all like talking and making fun of the movie, but also at one point during the end sequence, I was like, I know what happens, and I'm still on the edge of my seat. Like, why?
Always on the edge of your seat.
Doc is like going to reconnect the thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what will happen?
There's a lot of stressful moments throughout the movie. And yeah, you're right. I mean, I've seen this movie so many times. I love this movie. It is one of my favorite Probably like my favorite trilogy. But yeah, I felt the same. We all were like, had fists and we're like, oh my God, Doc Brown.
Is this the untimely end of Doc Brown?
Right? But he got shot.
I'm going to throw out a weird one here.
Okay.
I would actually propose that this trilogy gets better as it goes.
Yeah. I think, though, the third one you don't appreciate until you're older.
I hated it when I was a kid.
Same. I didn't understand it.
Yeah. But it makes sense, right?
It does.
The first movie is mostly in the 50s and then the 80s. Then the second movie goes to the future. And so the third movie goes to the past, right? And it's these 3 stages of the same area. Right. In the same family. And it does make sense more when you're older. I watched the third one for the first time last year. And it was the first time that I really sat down and watched it front to back. And I was like, this is great. It's really good. The ending is, cheesy and sugary sweet, but it felt like full. It felt like a good send-off for everybody. I think they get better as they go.
Yeah, and a lot of people that I've spoken to who have watched the trilogy later in life will say the third one is actually their favorite. Yeah. It's not my favorite. I mean, I love it, but yeah.
I don't know if it's my favorite. I think that they get better.
Yeah, the story works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time that you saw this?
I don't. I was really trying to remember that, but definitely when I was a teenager.
Yeah, okay.
Definitely. And I'm sad I never got to go on the ride at Universal. You know me with the rides. Yeah.
I know.
And it was like, what do you mean you never got to go on it? I was like, okay, judge much? I didn't get to go on it. I don't know why. They turned it into, I think it's now the Spider-Man ride, and I did get to go on that one.
Okay.
It's kind of like a moving, I don't know how to explain it, but you wear 3D glasses and it kind of moves you. You're in like a car, stationary car, and it kind of just moves you. So you feel like you're doing more.
Okay.
But it's just movement and lights and 3D glasses. And yeah.
There's some pretty great 3D glasses in this movie.
I mean, yeah. Great choice. Great choice.
I would like to invest in a pair of glasses that looks like an old-fashioned pair of 3D glasses, but they're my prescriptions.
You totally could pull it off. You should totally do that.
I would. I might look into it now after this.
That is definitely a Seth thing. Or at least you could wear them as your sunglasses.
Very true.
Yeah.
And then people will be like, hey, that guy likes movies.
That's right. And then you could wear your shirt on a safe space to talk about movies or whatever it's going to say. And they'll be like, okay, this guy's way too much into movies. I'm good.
Right. So when we were watching it, you were saying how during COVID lockdown, you would invite people over for social distancing movies.
Yeah.
Projected on your house.
Yeah. In our backyard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want you to hear that and say that you are not a movie guy.
Hey, Seth, shove it.
You invited people over to watch movies projected on your house, but you're like, I don't really like movies.
Here's the thing, and I think by now the people know, and I love
I think you're
movies.
just humble.
No.
Okay.
I love what I love.
Okay.
And that's like the perfect way to put it. If I love a movie, I love a movie. Now, mind you, with these movie nights, we were watching movies I chose. I didn't have anyone couldn't recommend anything. That's not how it worked.
Okay.
So Back to the Future, especially the first one, it's such a great movie to watch with friends. It's a great movie night movie.
Yeah. I want to give a quick disclaimer here before we start talking about the actual film. What I have found is that this is not a movie that the people who enjoy it, they don't want it picked apart. They don't want it broken down. They don't want little things talked about because it's just like, just leave it alone. Just don't worry about it. But to me, one of the more enjoyable parts of this movie is how weird and crazy it is. When we watched it, all three of us, we were just like, why is this happening? What? This is the plan? Like, this is the plan that they come up with? And you and I were both surprised to find out this movie's like 2 hours long.
Did not feel it.
If you had asked me before how long Back to the Future was, I probably would have said an hour 30. And as we were watching it, I was like, wow, that did not feel like 2 hours. The movie, it's moving. And anyway, so I just want to say, I do have some questions about this movie. I do question a lot of it, but it's not in an angry, like, takedown way. It's just, it's a fun movie to talk about.
Agreed. Yeah.
My first question to you is, when Doc Brown is hanging a clock in his bathroom, he says that the seat was wet and he slipped and hit his head. And that's when he like got the vision for the flux capacitor, right? It like came to him after hitting his head. Why was his toilet seat wet?
Condensation. And he says porcelain. Porcelain.
Yeah,
Toilet
I mean,
seat.
all toilets are made out of porcelain.
But I'm picturing like a really sweaty white porcelain toilet seat. There's no AC.
Yeah.
And so I think either he just showered or it's super hot. Although, and it's California, it's November. I mean, October, so it's fall.
And in all of this steamy bathroom, he's like, let me hang a clock?
Yeah, a lot of people have clocks in their bathrooms.
My point is, Doc Brown peed all over his toilet seat.
No way.
Yes.
Why would he pee?
No way.
No way. Why would he pee on the lid? Like
Because he's
the top lid?
scatterbrained. He's scatterbrained.
I don't think he's disgusting, though.
Well, I don't think that he's disgusting. I just think he's scatterbrained.
He wouldn't pee all over it. Or maybe he just tripped.
It's possible.
He probably lost his footing. That's probably what happened, actually. He lost his footing.
So, apart from, Toiletgate, my big problem with this movie, right, is that normally in a film, you get setups and payoffs, right? And it's like, cool. It's like, oh, this thing came back around. Wow, look at that. That was cool. But this movie is just that. When we watched it and when I rewatched it, and as I'm like taking notes, I just started writing down everything that is said, every like even object or like thing that happens until Marty goes into the past. I was like, that's a setup. That's a setup. That's a setup. They're all, even just Marty's walking through town and he sees a truck on a flatbed truck and he's like, wow, I would like that truck. In the end, he's got that truck.
Yeah, but this movie does
like
exposition so well.
Yes.
You have to give it that.
Oh,
Also,
I give it that.
What's wrong with getting the payoff? And
nothing.
And I also think on the first time around, you're not going to catch all the things that are being handed to you.
And I would think that's why so many people went back to see it and back to see it.
Because it's fun.
And if you see it a second time, you'll say, oh, that's that thing. And so then you'll think, maybe there's more I'm missing. And so you go to rewatch it. I think that that's a huge part of why this movie is very rewatchable. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. It's just, it feels like an exercise in how many circles can we make. And after a certain point, it's like, it feels gimmicky. And like I said, normally in a movie you have like 2-3 payoffs and it's cool. This is just, it's overload to me.
All right. I think it makes it really fun. Because once, and then when you're aware of all of it and you watch, you're like, ha ha ha, there's the plutonium. They just showed it on TV that it was stolen.
And there it is, under the bed. So, anyway, I know I literally just said I'm not going to complain about this movie, and then I launched into my very first complaint.
Well, we're going to talk about it.
But I wanted to get it out of the way.
And it's all in good fun. It's all in good fun,
Yeah, it is
right?
all in good fun. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But it is wild, like, really breaking down every scene and every line and realizing, like, everything. Even, I never put 2 and 2 together about Marty wants to play the school dance. They tell him no. It's Huey Lewis that tells him no.
Yep.
Yeah. And at the end, Marty's big moment is playing at the school dance. So
and
even
did he invent rock and roll? Like,
no,
that's the whole thing?
I don't think. I know.
No, I know.
I don't think so. Would 1985 Marty McFly have Johnny Be Good memorized on guitar? I don't know about that.
Well, his passion's music.
It's true.
I was listening to a podcast that I told you about this morning, Back to the Future podcast.
Yes.
Which is like, it started in 2015, and it's just covering Back to the Future and everything that has to do with it.
It's great.
And the host is Brad Gilmore. I'm very much enjoying it. I'm so happy I found it. But one of the questions they talk about is, which we talked about, is how did Marty and Doc become friends?
Exactly.
And so one of the theories is that because Marty is so into music and Doc has that amp, because we see it in the first scene, the opening, right? And he like turns it up to level 11.
Right.
And then Doc is like, do whatever you do, don't turn it
Right.
and he blows out. So there, he was just saying like one theory is they got together because the love of music and he had this amp.
Our friend Dan Port.
Dan Port.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll hear from him later on in the show. But he sent an article that explains, like, an original idea was that Marty had, like, broken into Doc's lab.
For funsies?
Yeah, just, like, as a curious kid, I guess. And they kind of befriended each other.
Nice.
I was wondering, does Marty, like, work part-time for Doc? Because when we're at the mall, and I've never noticed this before rewatching it, Doc's van says, Dr. Emmett Brown. You can see that pretty clearly. But then underneath of it, it says 24-hour scientific services.
So good.
So Doc has like a business. And when he calls Marty and he's like, meet me at 1 a.m, Marty's not like, I'm not going to do that. Like, this is a little, that feels more like an assistant type phone call than just, hey, we kind of pal around and know each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I can see maybe a time where there was more structure to their relationship, but it's just so weird.
It is, and we said
so
this
weird.
too while watching, is that it doesn't seem like Marty would be the type of guy to want to hang out with Doc, right? He seems like he's into music, and he has a girlfriend and girls, and he's and all the girls at the dance studio are waving to him as he's on his way to school, and
he's looking at the girls while he's walking with his girlfriend, which I was like, Marty,
right. But you would think that perhaps a quote unquote like nerdier or geekier person would want to hang out with Doc Brown in their spare time.
In terms of Marty looking at girls, I guess the McFly doesn't fall far from the tree.
Congratulations.
That was good. Come on. No, not good? Okay.
I mean,
Send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. Let me know if that was a good joke or not. I think it was.
Please do.
I also was thinking, okay, if this Doc is the Doc that grew up from 1955, that's how he would know Marty, because Marty had traveled back in time and they had this adventure and he gives him the letter. But it doesn't appear to be that way.
Right.
Yeah, so I don't want to waste a ton of time talking about time travel.
I know, because it's very convoluted.
Yeah. And I know that you really like time travel movies.
I do, very much so.
I do too. And normally in a time travel movie, you get like more explanation. This movie explains it fine, but it's kind of like there's just things to do right away. Like as soon as they find out, time travel's real, Doc's like, okay, bye, I'm leaving. And then he gets shot by terrorists, and then Marty goes back by himself, and the Doc that he's talking to is like figuring things out as they're happening. So there's not a ton of explanation as like exactly how this works. Like, for example, when Einstein goes into the future 1 minute, that Doc and Marty stay there. We don't flash forward to when Einstein resumes, right? And we know that it's the same Einstein because of the synchronized watches, right? All that.
Yep.
So we could I mean, maybe it doesn't work this way because Marty goes into the past. But what I was saying to you was Marty has that picture, right? And his family's like slowly disappearing. So I was like, so in Marty's present day, is his brother just like slowly disappearing? You know what I mean? It's like a cool device to use that picture to like show what's happening as history is changing. But did Marty's 1985 cease to exist when he went back? Because when he comes back the second time, everything is different except for him. Like his memories are retained. Anyway, it's very...
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we were talking about when we were watching. Like, I think it was Anne who said that eventually the memories will line up? Or is that you that said that?
I don't know. I didn't say that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was like, yeah, no, eventually I think the memories just come of what appears to be present day, but is obviously very different than what Marty remembers of how his parents were and siblings.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like an interesting play on It's a Wonderful Life, too.
Never seen it.
Oh, well.
But I kind of get it. I've heard it so many times. It's like the running joke that I've never seen it, and every Christmas it's like, will I watch it? And every Christmas I get away and I don't watch it.
Well, stay tuned, folks, because...
No!
This Christmas. Anyway, I won't go too far into it, but it is a somewhat interesting play on It's a Wonderful Life, where the question of It's a Wonderful Life is like, what if I was never born, right? And you realize like all these terrible things. Well, this is like, I don't understand. I don't get how Marty's inclusion in their story, because ultimately they kiss at the dance, right? And she says, "That's when I knew that I would be with him for the rest of my life."
Yeah, yeah.
So everything before that got messed up because George doesn't get hit by the car, right?
Correct.
So we get back to kissing at the dance. Why would anything really be different? And I thought, oh, it's because George writes a book. But when his novel comes, he says, my first book.
No, well, George, they kiss at the dance in before, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He gets hit by the car, but he's still a wimp, and Biff is still the bully.
Mm-hmm.
With Marty being involved, he punches Biff.
Oh.
And so gains confidence.
Okay.
And that's why Biff's role changes.
Got it. So it's really the punch.
Right.
Okay.
And also,
since we're there,
I think it's the punch, and also because even when we talked about this, so he punches Biff and, saved my life, blah, blah, blah. They go into the dance, but then she's with another dude. Remember that?
Yeah.
Lorraine. And so then George has to go over again and get her, and then they kiss. And so it's like this newly confidence that comes on him.
The basis of the relationship changes because originally George gets hit by a car and she takes care of him.
Right. Yep.
This time around, he saves her.
Right.
Right. Okay. And so the dynamic is like totally changed.
Totally changed. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't think about the punch. Since we're talking about the punch, though, I will say, and it's a little annoying to me that me talking about a film and critiquing different parts of it, people just interpret that as like, Seth's a hater and Seth doesn't like this movie. Not true.
Yeah.
Absolutely not true. I will say, this is like the greatest punch in movie history. The scene is so dark. It's such a different tone from the rest of the movie. And it's scary and it's intense. And I think a lot of people can relate to being in a situation where you're like helpless and powerless, but you just have to do whatever you can do. And so when George ends up punching him, it's like so uplifting and like it's just great. It's really wonderful.
Yeah. Don't you feel like this movie, I mean, I know it's an action movie and it's a sci-fi movie, but it feels very much good and evil superhero.
Sure.
And so where we have the woman who is the damsel in distress, and she has to be saved which feels very reminiscent of old superhero comics and stuff.
Yeah. And this movie's made in 1985. I mean,
right.
The character of Lorraine is she's not exactly like fully formed and written. Leah Thompson is great in
Love
this.
her.
I think, yeah, she's good. She's good at playing the different ages of Lorraine and new Lorraine and Crispin Glover as George McFly. What do you think?
I mean, I love him. He did such a great job.
Yeah.
As portraying George. That haircut, though, not the best, in my opinion.
You don't think so?
I don't love it.
It's so stringy.
It's so stringy.
It's always
there's always like one piece that's a little bit longer on one side.
Mm-hmm.
It gets more polished as he gains confidence. Maybe that's what happens with your hair when you gain confidence.
Hey.
But I think he was great as George. And you like Crispin Glover. I don't think I've actually seen him in anything else. So
Crispin Glover is one of Hollywood's biggest weirdos.
Uh-huh.
He is a strange dude. He has made a few films that are extremely bizarre. And he's had a very eclectic, interesting career. And I think that, George McFly in the first Back to the Future.
Right. He's
I'm
only
sure
in
you
the
know
first
about,
one. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Literally changing Hollywood law with them using his likeness in the second one without him coming back.
Yep.
I think this is definitely like his most accessible, popular role by far. Yeah, I think he's great. I like that they add the detail of him being a peeping Tom because, everyone is always nostalgic for the past. It's like, oh, I just wish we could go back. And my question is like, what time are you referring to? Like, what time in history was it great for everybody? Maybe it was great for you, but if you look around, it wasn't great for everybody else. And so the 1985 that Marty lives in is like a dump, right? The movie theater has been converted to like an adult theater. All of the stores are like closing down because the main street, like the main square, it's all like run down in favor of the mall, right? The mall of the 80s like killed small town America, right? And so the past that he goes back to at first looks very like idealized and like nice and clean, and the gas station has all these people who help you rotate your tires, I guess, every time you get gas.
What a concept.
Yeah, it's a surprise that job didn't last forever.
Yeah,
They're
right?
like, my God, what are we doing here? But we see like a different side of that time through Lorraine, Biff, and George. That it wasn't all like hunky-dory.
No. I mean, don't you think, generally speaking, when people want to go back and they're nostalgic, it's usually for their teenage years? Generally.
Yeah, I would say so.
No responsibility, young love.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good old days.
No, thank you. I say it all the time, and we say it on our Patreon exclusive show, Weirdcast, where we talk about Freaks and Geeks episode by episode. Being a teenager sucks.
It was tough.
Like, you're powerless, but you have responsibility.
Kind
you
of.
You have, like, things weighed on you. Like, what are you going to do with your life? And, what are you all about? And
yeah, but there's
you can't
also
just, like, be.
Sure, but there's also a time where you don't have responsibility and you don't have a lot of bills and you just have to go to school and then you hang out with your friends. For some, again. I'm not speaking for everybody, but
yeah. So how do you feel about Marty and his mom?
Well,
it's insane.
It's insane, but I think I had this thought, and I was going to write it in a note, and then when I was listening to the podcast, Back to the Future podcast, the host had his girlfriend on, and she saw the movie for the first time. They did a watch along, and then she spoke about it, and so he asked her about that relationship. And she said, even though it's kind of uncomfortable, but also perhaps Lorraine views her son as perfection. Mm-hmm. And so unconsciously, when she meets him, he's perfect. So much so when they go to kiss, she's like, this doesn't feel right. I don't know what it is, but this doesn't feel right. I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Interesting.
To me. And I kind of felt the same way.
I saw some complaints of, wouldn't George and Lorraine recognize Marty when he grows up? No.
What?
No, you don't remember every person from when you were 16 years old, especially someone who was around for like 2 days.
Yeah, no. Plus, yeah, I guess he would be part of their history. Calvin Klein would be part of.
Right.
Yeah. No.
And again, I'm not trying to say I hate this movie. I can see multiple paths around Marty's mom being in love with him. Sure. It's funny, and it's like the craziest part of a time travel movie.
I know.
Like, for a movie that has Doc Brown, which we're going to talk about him, but like, this is like the most out there. And it's like the story, it's so convoluted. There's so many like, it's not simple at all. You've got like terrorists and
I know.
A lightning strike, and that's how we're going to get back. Like, there's so much happening, but I can just, I threw out several other options while we were watching. It could have been this and it could have been that. Instead, Marty's like, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to be in the car with my mom and I'm going to rough her up and you're going to come in and save the day.
That's the only way to do it.
Sure. Okay.
That's, yeah.
It's the only way.
It's the only way. It's super uncomfortable. But at the same time, if this movie was made today, which it probably wouldn't be made the same way.
No way.
I wouldn't like it, right? It's because it's nostalgic, and not that I'm excusing it, but I'm like, it's just part of the quirkiness of Back to the Future, and it's the story.
Everybody. Yeah. I think that's everybody with this movie. This is a great example of a movie that people love despite all of the stuff. And so they're just like, don't even think about it. I don't want to talk about it.
I think about it, but it's fun to talk about. It's so fun. This movie is also so good for conversation. You have the time travel aspect. You have the weirdness between like the Lorraine storyline with Marty. Doc Brown is just Doc Brown. I mean, that.
Let's talk about Doc Brown. What do you think about Christopher Lloyd as Doc Brown?
I love Christopher Lloyd. I've definitely expressed that on this podcast. He just brings so much life to Doc Brown, and he's so serious about everything he says, even though it's so comical. He's not trying to be funny. It's just the way he expresses his thoughts, and he's so serious, and I love him. I'm like obsessed with that character. It's definitely one of my favorite characters in a movie.
He's giving an iconic performance.
Yeah.
The phrase that gets thrown around a lot with over-the-top performances is like chewing the scenery. I don't feel that so much with Doc. He's just a big personality. You know what I mean? Like you were saying. It is overacting, and it's, I mean, even to his hair being like out, you know what I mean? The different outfits that he's when Marty goes to his house in 1955, he's wearing this like gold smoking jacket. It's very interesting. Doc is very out there, and Christopher Lloyd, I mean, he's good in other things, Taxi. We were talking about, how good he is in Taxi, but it's one of the better, larger than life characters in a comedy, from the 80s, 90s, whatever. It's huge. It's a huge, huge, huge character. And I think, we always make fun of when people give a review that's like, well, if it wasn't for this part of the movie, it would be bad. It's like, well, yeah, duh. That's not the movie we're watching. But like really, and I think it's why I like part 3 the best. Doc and Marty interacting with each other, I feel like those are the best parts of the movie. And it's the characters of Doc and it's the character of Marty that make the whole thing work.
Yeah.
If the movie was much heavier into Marty and Lorraine's relationship, it'd be like, I don't know about that,
No.
And so it's like just enough to make the whole thing like you're on edge, like what is going on?
Right.
If it was a lot more of like him hanging out with his dad, but it almost becomes like a spy movie or like a heist movie, where Doc and Marty are meeting privately to talk, even though when they're walking through the hallway, the empty school hallway, Doc Brown is just like, well, Marty, and like, it's like, maybe bring it down and don't talk about your entire plan, for everyone to hear as you're walking past the classrooms. But yeah, it's like they meet in secret, they come up with different plans, and then they execute the plans. There's even, a cop who shows up to kind of like thwart the plan. Every heist movie or spy movie has like an end set piece, right? Where different things need to happen at precise moments, right? And we even get, the cable coming disconnected, and well, now the plan has to deviate and Doc has to do all this stuff. That sequence is so good. When we watched it, we were saying like pretty much from the punch forward, it's just breakneck speed, and it's awesome from that point. Everything else is good too, but from there to the end, it's just firing on all cylinders, and
you're on edge. You are on edge.
Yes, yeah.
And the music is perfect.
Fantastic, Alan Silvestri. Great. One of the great themes in movie history, I would say. Yeah.
I agree.
It's exhilarating. It makes you emotional. I was crying multiple times in the third movie from, when the score would come in. It's just great. I mean, it's up there with like Star Wars and Indiana Jones theme. It's the Batman theme. It's great.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about Thomas F. Wilson.
Biff.
Our good friend Biff.
Butthead.
We cover him in our Freaks and Geeks show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. $5 a month, 3 additional shows, Patreon-only Discord. Wow. Once we hit our goal of 50 patrons, I'm going to get a tattoo that's voted on by you guys. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, butthead.
Yeah. Join our Patreon, butthead.
Yeah, maybe I should make a graphic that's Biff banging someone on the head that says, hello.
Can you please do that? That would be great.
But Biff. He's great. He's great, and he's iconic. So iconic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough character.
Yep.
Because you don't like him, but you can't not laugh at him and be amused by him.
He's a buffoon.
He's a buffoon.
Yeah.
And then in part 2, the fun to see him play Griff.
Yep.
It's fun.
I asked you while we were watching it, I was like, is Biff handsome?
Yeah.
Because I've just always been used to seeing him as like a bully and Biff, which Biff is like, like, what a name. It's just a sound, It's like Biff.
Biff.
Right.
Yeah.
And so as I was watching him this time, I was like, wait, Thomas F. Wilson is very handsome. And like he's very muscular, and I think if we hadn't been like so introduced to him as this character, it would have been a very different story for him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
it's
think
just
that
his personality.
Yeah, Freaks and Geeks definitely plays into that by making him the gym teacher who at first you think is just, very aggressive and a bully. And anyway, we're not talking about that show, but I just wanted to point that out there. I also noticed something, and I don't know if I'm like, I wasn't able to connect all the dots on this one, but I noticed in my rewatches, cars play such an important part in this movie, like an odd amount, right?
Yeah, I didn't really pick up on that until you mentioned it when we were watching.
Yeah, so it's like obviously the DeLorean, which one of the most iconic movie props of all time, right?
Yeah.
Biff gets covered with manure in his car. The assault on Lorraine is in the car. There's the big car chase at the end to the lightning bolt. At the very end, Marty gets his car And it's like, there's cars in every movie, but it just felt like a lot of like pivotal scenes in this
Also,
movie
like
in
in the
particular.
chase scenes, you know, Marty on his skateboard.
Right, he's
on
always
the
skitching.
back of cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, I wasn't able to like put that into a cohesive thought, but it was something that I noticed this time around.
Yeah, an observation.
Yeah. So obviously everybody knows. I mean, look, Michelle mentioned a podcast that's been going since 2015 talking about the behind the scenes. There's so much cool behind the scenes stuff with this movie. Some of the green screen work, right? Somewhat revolutionary. But I think by far the most well-known part of trivia is how Eric Stoltz was originally supposed to play Marty, right? And I'm sure you've seen all of those videos of him.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that movie would be.
A serious one?
Yeah, yeah.
Because he's
like
so serious.
Yeah, it's so goofy and ridiculous, right? This setup. That I feel like Michael J. Fox sells it because he's so earnest.
Yeah.
Where if it was a goofier actor, or obviously with Stoltz, where he tried to play it more serious, it doesn't really work. Like if he was constantly, you know, it was like one-liners the whole time and like just over the top goofy, it would like fall apart. That's like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which I know you said you haven't seen. That's also a 1980s teenage time travel movie, but it's way, way more goofy. Marty is he's just like earnest. You know what I mean?
Right. And he balances Doc Brown very
Right.
nicely.
Right.
Yeah. It's just the thought of that Eric Stoltz was on this project and they filmed with him for 7 weeks.
Yeah.
Like almost 2 months.
Yeah.
And then for your supporting cast to be told, we had to let him go. We're going to have to reshoot some of those scenes. A lot of those scenes, actually.
After shopping the script around for 5 years.
Right. And so...
like you get there and you're making it and then it's like,
Yeah.
there goes the lead.
There goes the lead.
Yeah.
He's not funny.
Yeah.
It's not good. He's
Yeah.
not. It's not that he's a bad actor. It's just
No,
not
Eric
for
Stoltz
this
is great.
project.
Yeah.
And then for Michael J. Fox to be filming Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future at night,
Yep.
wild.
Yeah. And, you know, somewhat physical role, you know, he's like learning the
Yeah.
guitar parts and yeah, it's
He's
very,
running
very
and-
impressive.
Oh, yeah. It's
And
so impressive.
I don't know how many other like Michael J. Fox projects you've seen from like around the time, but he's so magnetic. He's so charismatic. You know,
Yeah.
he gave one of the speeches at my wife's graduation just a few years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And truly, like, his disease has slowed him down in the terms of like what he's able to do and acting but it has not diminished or slowed down in any way like his charisma, his magnetism. He was so funny when he was giving this speech.
Aww.
And even though, you know, there's thousands, it was Stony Brook University on Long Island, right? Big university, huge graduation. We're all sitting there in like the sweltering heat. And it's thousands of us, and we're all just like focused on this like tiny little dude who's like really far away on the stage. I remember almost like everything that he talked about.
Wow.
He's just such a great presence, and like in this movie, he's on fire. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think you can watch this and not, you know, be enamored with Doc and Marty.
I agree. Their friendship is pretty special. And it's believable. To me, I know we question like how did they
Yeah.
meet and how this
Yeah.
gets started, but once you're in it, you're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm totally
yeah.
about these two."
Yeah. It's more just like curious.
Curious,
It's like, okay,
exactly.
what's happening?
Right. How'd you guys become friends?
I'm just supposed to accept a 12-foot tall speaker, time travel that hasn't been tested before with plutonium and terrorists, and okay, sure,
Right.
whatever. Okay.
Right. Yep.
I did see another fact that this movie went to theaters 9.5 weeks after wrapping principal photography.
I mean, come on.
Insane. That's insane. 9.5 weeks?
Mind blown.
It took us longer than that to figure out all the launching of this podcast.
I was just going to say that. Like, we were in pre-production for so long.
Yeah. Which we're coming up on, by the way, 1 year.
I know.
Of, the idea of this movie.
It's really your, really spending my friend vacation, pushing it hard that we should do a podcast together. Yeah.
Yeah.
End of August.
But still.
I know.
Took
it's
a
pretty
long time
special.
to get it working.
It did. And then we met at your parents' house in October.
Yeah.
Great. We're going to, here's the year plan. And then January. Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. And I remember we had planned through till June.
Yep.
And I said, this is a plan through June. I was like, I know it seems crazy to plan 6 months ahead.
Nope.
And now we're here in July, and we're planned now into January. And I'm thinking to myself, if this show keeps going, I really got to come up with the next 6 months. So but the point is, time moves fast.
Yes.
When you're trying to get something done. So that they did this in 9.5 weeks, and they did it as excellently as they did, and that it was received as well as it was. Wild. Really, really wild. With all of the setbacks and really great. So the movie was made for $19 million. It made $381.1 million.
I call that a win.
1985.
Don't you think that's a win, Seth? That's a little bit of a win.
That's insane. If a movie was made for $19 million today and made $381 million, that would be huge.
Yeah.
The superhero movies that break 500 or 600 million that are made for $200 million. You know what I mean? This is made for 19. Unreal.
On that, there are some scenes in this movie where I'm like, how did they do that?
Like what? Can you recall any?
Or like, this looks so good.
Yeah.
And then there's some where you're like, the the terrorist minivan looks like a toy.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure back in the day, the shot of them standing with the flames going through their legs looked great. Now it's like it's not great. Okay, but whatever.
But
that's
we
fine.
love it. We love it. We love it.
Yeah, I love the sequence. I mean, to me, the ending, of course.
Of course.
With the lightning.
Yeah.
Doc. I mentioned to you, it's reminiscent of the movie Safety Last, the Harold Lloyd silent film, and as we're scanning Doc's workshop at the beginning, we're seeing this collection of different clocks, and one of them is like a Harold Lloyd Safety Last clock. So I like it for that, but it looks good. The lightning looks good.
It looks good.
Doc
I know.
getting shocked.
Hey, 1985 looks good.
Yeah.
Looks good.
So, yeah, it makes all this money. It's gone back into theaters and made like a few more $1 million, but its initial run, yeah. It's got 93 on Rotten Tomatoes, Letterboxd 4.2, Metacritic 87. This was entered into the National Registry of Film in 2007. They did film for a long time, 109 days, which of the films that we've covered, I think might be like the longest.
Really?
Yeah. But I mean, you add into, Eric Stoltz. And
yeah, right.
They kept filming.
I know.
Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
That it feels seamless. The end product feels seamless. Like knowing that, right? Going into it and watching, knowing, they did all these things with Eric Stoltz. Obviously, they did reshoots, but they tried to minimize the amount of reshoots.
Yeah, right.
And it feels seamless. Like, yeah.
And
even
then,
if you're looking for it, I don't think you can really see it.
The second and third one were filmed simultaneously, which is pretty wild. I don't know how long that took, what the filming of that was, but I mean,
when you make $381 million, you're like,
sure.
Hey, can we go back to the future?
Yes.
I love the ending too.
Yeah.
Because the ending, Doc comes back and he's wearing futuristic clothes, and it's one of the better lines, where we're going, we don't need roads.
Iconic.
flying out, it's great. It's very good.
It's very good.
And it feels like it sets up a sequel in a way that it definitely closes one chapter of the story and then makes you excited for what's coming next. So many big budget movies now, it's just perpetual sequels. And so it feels like nothing ever really finishes.
Yeah.
This one, it feels like the movie is over. There's more to the story. I think a sequel was a no-brainer as long as this movie made money, which it could have not. This could have been a disaster.
It could have flopped. Yeah.
So we reached out to our friends on Twitter and asked them what they thought. Kate, good friend and patron,
Kate
at a Kate M, said, "This is such a fun movie. I first saw it at a slumber party as a kid."
Fun.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes, that's so fun.
"And I was so intrigued by the depiction of the 1950s in this movie. I love when Marty walks into 1955 Hill Valley for the first time while Mr. Sandman plays, and I love the 50s fashion."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, the whole time we were like, we want that shirt.
Yes, multiple times. It was like Doc would have a shirt or Marty would have a shirt, and I was like, I want that. Like,
yeah,
I would
I
wear
wanted that.
now.
Yeah.
Felicia at Cinemaroni.
Woohoo!
Felicia just launched her own podcast.
Very exciting.
Yes, Seeing Faces in Movies. First episode on Billy Wilder. It's great. She said, "Back to the Future is the only time Crispin Glover hasn't been terrifying, and that's why this is a masterpiece." Jamila, at Jamila Brownie, said, "Like I said to Seth before, the only problem I have with this movie is how Lorraine is often treated like this sexual object. But I do appreciate she also has a sense of her own sexuality, contrary to what 1985 Lorraine states. It's just very rapey and icky at times."
Of course.
And totally agreed.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Like I said, she's not a fully written character.
No.
But Leah Thompson is doing good with what she has.
She did great.
Sean, good friend Sean Shank.
Sean Shank!
At Tyler Burnham, says, "Back to the Future is a movie that I rewatched as an adult and was blown away by how much it holds up. It's one of the best buddy movies." And that's true. Mm-hmm. I did think about doing this when we did buddy movies. But I think it wasn't streaming. There was something in the way, but
yeah,
I think it ranks with The Karate Kid as one of the greatest 80s movies. The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News is straight fire. And you know what?
It's a bop.
I'm not going to say I disagree, but it is like so corny.
What? Come on, it's so good. It fits.
I'm not saying it's not good.
It fits perfectly.
Okay. I disagree.
He's throwing in the towel.
No, I mean, I disagree, but it's like, what's the point? You know
sure.
What I mean?
What's the point?
I think that the score is so good.
Yeah.
And if you remove Power of Love, it makes it a little more timeless, where when Power of Love kicks in, it's just like... And then Back in Time. The others.
It's good.
It's like, all right, man.
It's good.
Dan Port.
Dan Port.
Who I said earlier we'd be hearing from. At Dan Port. So he shared a behind-the-scene reason for why Marty and Doc were friends, which we already talked about. And then he also said, "For me, even more weird than the fact that George met Lorraine because he was peeping on her from a tree in the original timeline, is that in the revised timeline, they are friends with Biff, who tried to sexually assault Lorraine at the dance."
You would call them friends? I'm not calling them friends.
I don't know. They might not be friends, but he's talking to them and he's working on their car. And
it's more like, "Hey, Biff, don't miss a spot, but I'm not going to treat you like an asshole, but you're below me."
I know, but like, would you even want that guy on your property?
No, but it's kind of like in this weird way an ownership of like,
I guess so.
You don't own me anymore.
And it is a setup because Biff crashes George's car. And
yep.
Like everything.
That's right.
It's got to be paid off.
That's right.
Jacob at Lots of Scotch.
Lots of Scotch.
He responded to my setup, which was, why is this? Why is this? Why is this? He said, "Sometimes you just have to let art flow over you." And then he gave a wink face emoji.
Thank you. Lots of Scotch tape. That's what I'm calling.
Lots of Scotch tape?
Yep.
So those were some people that we do know. Now we're going to go to a portion of the show where we hear reviews from people that we don't know. It's called Half Star, 3 Star, 5 Star. All right, so these are reviews from letterboxd.com. We start out with a half-star review, which is the lowest rating that you can give a movie, and we go all the way up to a 5-star review, which is the highest rating that you can give a movie. And this first review, I think I'll just do a straight British.
No. Can you read it as Doc Brown?
Oh my gosh.
You did it earlier, and it was without trying, and it was pretty good. So
I know, and now on the spot.
I think you can do it, Seth. Seth Brown.
Let's see here. I'm going to get away from the microphone a little bit to give myself room.
You can use your hands to...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do this.
You can.
Okay. I know this is going to upset a lot of people, but I hate this movie with a burning passion. I don't get the appeal at all. It's poorly aged, it's cringy and unfunny, and my God, it's gross. It irritates me that it plays on the TV all the time over Christmas, and others just love to have it on. Half star.
Seth! That was so good!
I don't know.
I'm sitting here in awe. My face is just like, for those who don't know, like, I'm like, what? That was Christopher Lloyd coming through.
Do you want to do a podcast where I just do that the whole time?
I mean, maybe I could work on my Marty.
Yeah.
Doc.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, always kind of like,
God,
yeah,
geez,
right.
Yeah.
Wow,
right.
That's so good. I was just so captivated with that, what you did, that I barely listened to the review.
Yeah, well, so, they don't like it.
They don't
think
like
it's gross.
It. Gross.
They said, my God, it's gross.
Well,
as if it's like overwhelmingly gross.
Probably the Lorraine stuff.
I guess so.
Yeah.
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 Oh, whatever. 3-star review. This film still holds up. What a fun and entertaining movie. A well-written script, sharply edited film, and endearing performances gets you Back to the Future. The highlight is the chemistry between Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox. The bizarre premise works, and it works big time. Watch it for its entertainment and rewatchability factor and not to find loopholes.
Perfection.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah. 5-star review says, there's no denying it, this film is a masterpiece. Amazing structure, pace, and storytelling. Incredibly fun and adventurous with a bunch of unforgettable, fleshed-out characters with an outstanding score to complement it all. This is one of the greatest films of all time. 5
I
stars.
agree. Absolutely.
All right. Michelle has a rating system, which is a schmovie, a movie, or a film. So, Michelle, what do you think? What are you rating this movie?
I'm rating it a movie.
Okay.
And I'm rating it 4.5 stars.
Wow.
Yeah, I love this movie, if you couldn't tell. I'm very curious to hear your rating. Well, first, I want to hear on my rating scale, but more curious of your number.
Got it. Mm-hmm. What if this was my first movie?
No.
Okay. I think this is a movie.
Okay.
This is like one of the most movies of all
It's a movie. Yeah.
Yeah. This is a fun, high-fiving, laughing and pointing and open mouth and edge of your seating and you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. To me, like I said, my biggest problem with this is just that the gimmick runs itself over and over. And I think if you replace some of that with just a little more dialogue or just a little bit more of Doc and Marty interacting or cut the movie down a little bit, I don't think we need 100 payoffs in one movie because eventually it does get cheapened to where you're like, oh, the only reason why this happened is so that we could see a parallel in the future. So that's my big complaint. I'm going to say that this is, oh man. I think that this is, I can't even say it. I can't even say it.
I feel like my eyes are burning you right now.
Okay. I have to be true. I have to be true to myself. Okay? Mm-hmm. I think that this is a 4-star movie.
I thought you were going to say this was like a 2.5 movie, 2.5 star.
No,
and I was about to come through that screen and do nothing because you're allowed to have your own opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's not, I'm not like taking points away for all this different stuff. All of the reviews that I read, people were like, how can you watch a movie about a mom and son? And
oh my
like,
gosh.
Dude, come on, get over it, please. It's such a, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
So yeah, I'm not like, oh, this should be, but it's great. It's a great movie. It's a great fun movie. Good. I think it's a great movie, especially like if you see it as a young person, you know what I mean? Like show this to your kids, watch it at slumber parties like Kate did, go see it at a drive-in. Yeah. If it's playing in the theaters, go and see it with a crowd. It's a fun movie. It's a fun time. It's iconic for a reason. It's loved for a reason. And I'm glad that we have Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox in such iconic roles that are so well loved.
I agree.
Like that makes me happy.
I said this on Saturday. This is on Broadway now as a musical. And Aunt and I are dying to see it. We are literally dying, Seth.
Okay.
But I'm very curious to see how that will be, one, portrayed as a musical, two, portrayed, on stage, but also without Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, Yeah.
Because do you just do a Christopher Lloyd impersonation?
Right. Or do you add a different element to the character as yourself, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'll be curious.
Whenever you take on a role and you just do the impersonation, it's like...
Yeah, tough.
It doesn't gel all the way. So yeah, be interesting to see.
I'll keep you posted if you care.
I'm sure there will be a song called "The Power of Love."
There better be.
And that's the power of love.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
Okay, like we said, this is the last movie that we're doing for Friend Request Month. We love you.
It's been fun.
Peace out. It's been really fun. We are not going to be releasing a main episode next week. 7 months, we've been doing one episode a week. We are taking a tiny little break. We still have new episodes coming out on Oppenheimer. We're doing Barbie this week, which by the time this episode drops, that one will have already come out. It's a great week to catch up on old episodes that you haven't heard. It's a great week to sign up for the Patreon. And check out the behind the paywall content. But when we come back, we are kicking off Action August.
Wow.
We're going to be looking at a few action movies. I'm very excited. And we're going to start off in the year 1985. That's right, folks. We're staying in 1985. We're going to be talking about Police Story, directed by Jackie Chan. Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Michelle's eyes just widened. It's 100 minutes, currently streaming on HBO Max.
Cool.
And it's great.
Never heard of this before.
It's a lot of fun.
I hope so. Now we're back to Seth saying what's fun and me discovering it for the first time. So.
Yep.
We'll see about that, folks.
Yep. Hey, if you had a lot of fun, we'd love it if you'd give us a rating and a review. Also, you can send us an email, moviefriendspodcast@gmail.com. We love to hear from folks. You don't even have to sing in the shower. You can just send an email.
You could, though.
You could, and we would love it.
Yep.
This week, you should send us you singing The Power of Love.
Yeah, that'd be fun. I was trying to think what else they could send us. Or maybe
you
they
could go
can
back
do
in time.
Their best Doc Brown impression of saying Great Scott.
Okay, yeah. Send us a Great Scott.
Great Scott.
You can also support the show, patreon.com/moviefriendspodcast. It's $5 a month. You get access to 3 additional shows. Ghibli Gabs, where we're going through the films of Studio Ghibli. We're Cast, where we're going episode by episode through season 1 of Freaks and Geeks. And Super Amazing Film Club, where we talk to the people that we love about movies that they love. You also get access to our patron-only Discord. And that's a fun time. We talk, and everyone yells at me and loves Michelle, and it's a lot of fun.
But there's a lot of cat love.
There's a lot of cat love. Anyway, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Listen to our other stuff. Give us a review. If we don't get 3 reviews, we're not coming back.
Yeah. We're not coming back.
Yeah. We will not release the next episode.
3 reviews.
Yeah, 3. Thanks, Michelle. This was fun.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Yeah.
Check out Matt's art, Matt Dammer, on Instagram. All right, until next time, when we're talking about Police Story. Thanks for listening. Have a good one.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Vicora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks!